Would you believe that the Comanches, having such a ferocious history, settled down for peace talks with the Texas Rangers? But then the Texas Rangers ended up killing the Comanche Peace delegation, and all hell breaks loose. What led to this? Retaliating to this, the Comanche Raiders chief, Buffalo Hump, furiously attacks and brings down the city, after which the Texas Rangers confront them at the Battle of Plum Creek. What happened next will shock you. During the 1980s, tensions between the Comanche tribe and white settlers in Texas were high. The Comanches had long relied on buffalo hunting for their way of life, but the arrival of white settlers led to a decline in buffalo numbers and increased competition for sources. As a result, the Comanches began raiding white settlements for food and supplies. The Council House fight. Texan officials initiated negotiations with the Comanches by making demands that were unrealistic and impossible to fulfill. These demands included the return of all white captives, including Cynthia Parker, who was a renowned captive. However, the Comanche chiefs could not satisfy this demand, as other white captives were held by other bands of Comanches, who were not in their control. In an attempt to display their sincerity, the Comanche chiefs brought in two captives, a Mexican boy and a girl named Matilda Lockhart. Nevertheless, the Texans were not satisfied and suspected that the Comanches were withholding some of their captives to secure their safety. With a calculated plan to violate the immunity of the peace delegation, the Texas Rangers informed the chiefs that they would be held as hostages until the other white captives were released. The situation spiraled out of control, resulting in everyone drawing their weapons. The Rangers began firing, leading to the death of the entire Comanche Peace delegation. The Great Raid of 1840. In August 1840, retaliating to the betrayal by the Texas Rangers, a group of Native Americans led by the Comanche chief Buffalo Hump raided the Texan settlement of Linville, burning the town to the ground and killing or capturing most of its inhabitants. In what was possibly the greatest organized Comanche attack against Texas settlements to that period. They raided and burned these towns, plundered at will. Their overall loot comprised almost 3,000 horses and mules, as well as hundreds of thousands of dollars in other valuables such as silver, fabric, and mirrors. The enormous number of plunder showed them considerably and put them exposed to attack by the Texas Rangers that would not have caught them otherwise. On their long journey back from the sea, the Comanches were met by Texas Rangers, and which led to the Battle of Plum Creek. The Battle of Plum Creek. On August 12, 1840, a force of around 130 Texan military, led by Captain Matthew Caldwell, encountered a group of around 500 Native Americans near Plum Creek. The Native Americans were a mix of Comanche, Kiowa, and Wichita warriors, led by Buffalo Hump and other prominent Native American leaders. The Texans were initially caught off guard and were forced to retreat, but they soon regrouped and formed a defensive line on the banks of Plum Creek. The Native Americans launched several attacks on the Texan positions but were unable to break through their defenses. As the battle raged on, the Texans began to run low on ammunition and were forced to resort to using their rifles as clubs. Despite this, they managed to hold their ground and repel the Native American attacks. After several hours of fighting, the Native Americans began to withdraw, and the Texans emerged victorious. The battle resulted in the deaths of around 50 Native Americans and 9 Texans, including one of their captains, Isaac G. Baker. The Battle of Plum Creek was a significant turning point in the conflict between the Texans and the Native Americans. The Texas Rangers' victory demonstrated their military strength and proved they could defend their settlements against the Native American raids. However, the battle also had long-term consequences. The Native Americans continued to raid Texan settlements, and the conflict between the two groups would continue for several more years. Additionally, the battle marked the beginning of the end for the Comanches' dominance in Texas, as they were gradually pushed out of the region by the increasing number of settlers and the Texan military. That's all for today, guys. Subscribe for more videos on the history of Native American tribes.